Anthony Edwards, Karl-Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, and Mike Conley lead the Minnesota Timberwolves. This season overall was a disappointment for Wolves fans, from Cat's injury that kept him out for over 2 months to trading for Gobert not being as worth it as fans would have hoped based on what they gave up to get him, to a gentleman sweep in the first round despite much higher expectations. But in the midst of all the Timberwolves' usual shortcomings, there has been one bright spot. Anthony Edwards has proven himself to be a star in this league, and he has taken over as the Minnesota Timberwolves' best player, replacing Karl-Anthony Towns, and it might be time to move on from Cat altogether. Since he came into the league, Towns has had superstar expectations, and although he has turned into a great player, 3-time All-Star and 2-time All-NBA, there seems to be something missing, another caliber that he hasn't seemed to reach. A poll was taken in 2016 about who NBA GMs would want to start a franchise with the most, and a 20-year-old Karl-Anthony Towns beat out 31-year-old LeBron James and 27-year-old Kevin Durant. And of course, these guys were much older than the young center, but for GMs to want to take you over any other player in the league, you must be the real deal, especially with another superstar who's coming off of an NBA championship and Steph Curry and a 21-year-old Anthony Davis running around. But Cat has fallen short of his expectations, and his career start seemed to promise much more. Coming out of Georgia as a freshman, Anthony Edwards was one of the highly anticipated incoming rookies for the 2020 draft class, with his most intriguing trait being his athleticism. He wasn't a great three-point shooter though. Just like any future superstar when they are young, he wasn't perfect, but he has gotten better every year of his career, and after year 3 he has become one of my favorite players. On many different occasions, Edwards has showcased his all-league athleticism, but his improvement as a jump shooter is what makes him so dangerous. His three-point percentage has climbed 4% since year 1, and his true shooting percentage has also improved. His scoring arsenal is dangerous, and he's only 21 years old. And combined with this skill, Ant is as confident as it gets, and he wants that moment, and he will not shy away from the spotlight. On top of Ant's bucket-getting ability, he has improved defensively. He ranked 3rd this season among guards for block shots, and his jumping ability really helps with this trait. Secondly, on top of the caliber of player that they are and are becoming, Ant has seemed to lead the team come playoff time for 2 straight seasons. The ability to lead and show up for your team in the postseason is probably the most important trait for a star player, and Cat simply hasn't shown that, while Ant put up 32, 5, and 5 versus the NBA champions in the first round. Everything points to Ant being the guy in Minnesota going forward. He has the talent and the mentality to get even better, and it may be time to move on from Cat. Like we talked about earlier, he just hasn't gotten to the next caliber of player. Trading him may be the best option right now, and many Wolves fans agree. The fit for this team this past year was one of the worst in the league, if not the worst. The team from 2022 featured D'Angelo Russell, Patrick Beverley, Anthony Edwards, Jared Vanderbilt, and Karl-Anthony Towns. After the trade for Rudy Gobert, sending out 2 of the team's starters plus much more, the Wolves ended up with Russell, Edwards, Jaden McDaniels now starting, Towns, and Gobert at the start of the season. A much more awkward and unnatural fit. A team trading for Rudy Gobert is only going to be for 2 reasons: rebounding and rim protection. Rebounding wise, they were actually worse this year, and a lot of that probably had to do with Cat missing so much time, despite Gobert adding almost 12 boards a game. Also, losing Jared Vanderbilt's 8 rebounds a game hurt as well. But the team's ability to defend the rim did improve, and that makes sense when you have a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year on your team. But this addition mucked up the offense pretty badly. Early on in the season, it was apparent that everyone was having trouble getting used to each other. Ant and Gobert would run into each other in the pick and roll more than I've ever seen 2 teammates do so. Ant's drives to the basket were also much harder, with Gobert not offering any spacing at all. Ant also has strides to make as a playmaker and pick and roll passer for everything to connect better. Karl-Anthony Towns had much more trouble offensively at the 4 instead of his traditional position at the 5. The offense overall was a mess. Bringing in Mike Conley and sending out D'Angelo Russell was good for the Wolves, as Conley is a more traditional point guard, and this helped Gobert especially. But this fit is still far from natural. After many years of Minnesota disappointment, it seems moving Cat is probably their best option. Maybe you run it back with the same squad and hope chemistry can be built. It was tough for them to learn each other and catch a rhythm with Cat only playing 29 games, but there's also a great and probably a more likely chance it doesn't get much better. The fact of the matter is Cat is a center, and with him and Gobert starting and playing a whole lot together, it may be tough for them to thrive at any point, especially with a player like Ant who needs to get to the rim to be successful. And again, Cat is great, but he hasn't shown major improvements to propel this squad higher. He also hasn't shown up in any of the team's 3 playoff runs throughout the entirety of his career, at least not in the way that you would want him to. Overall, he has been disappointing as a franchise player, but the Wolves have another that seems far more promising. A new Wolves team led by Ant could have some major potential going forward, mainly because of his current and future stardom. But the team has other great pieces like Jaden McDaniels, one of the best defensive players in the league with an improving offensive game. Kyle Anderson is a do-it-all guy and glue piece any franchise would love to have. Naz Reid is one of my favorite players in the league and a fan favorite for the Wolves. He has an impressive jump shot and handle for a big, and bringing him back should be a top priority this summer. Even if this team sucked, moving into the future with Ant is a great start. Anthony Edwards is going to be a superstar, and it seems like the team has reached their ceiling with Karl-Anthony Towns. Anthony Edwards has taken over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Do you think the Timberwolves should trade Cat? Just how good can Anthony Edwards be? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Rashad with Hoops Times 2. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time. Peace out.